Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're going to be talking about spells again. We have a whole series on this channel about the best spells of different levels for different classes, for those who want some recommendations on what spells to choose. But today we're talking about something else. We're talking about spells that aren't all that great. You see, there's a lot of classes out there, clerics, druids, that get to swap out their spells as they please. And that means that even if they choose a trap spell, they may not necessarily have to keep it. They can switch it for something different. So that's not the biggest deal in the world, but some classes are stuck with them. They have to choose their spells, and then unless the DM gives them an out, they don't get to change them out. They just have them forever. Knowing what spells to choose is important. And today we're actually talking about cantrips. Even for those who can swap their spells, cantrips can't be swapped other than at very rare points throughout the game. When you have them, you're stuck with them. And knowing what cantrips are not great to pick is important at character creation. Today we're covering the Artificer, the 13th class from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and the Eberron books. And they are half casters, so their spells don't level super fast, and they have to have good cantrips to lean into. I've prepared a list of 5 of the worst cantrips that artificers can choose. Before we get into the list, though, I'd like to let you know that Relaxed Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can earn a couple things on my channel. First, you get a little badge next to your name in the comments, letting folks know you're a supporter, and you can get early access to the videos. I upload videos every other day, and I upload the videos for members a day early. If you can't support, that's okay. The schedule is not going to change. But if you can, you'll earn my undying gratitude. Thank you for watching, supporting if you can, and enjoying the content. So, Artificer cantrips. Let's start with a real easy one. Resistance. Resistance is... A lot of people think of it as the partner to Guidance. Guidance is a cantrip which, when you cast it, you can grant an extra d4 to a skill check. And that's great. It's one of the best cantrips in the game. Resistance, when you cast it as an action, you grant a creature an extra d4 on a saving throw. Thing is that it takes an action to cast, and it takes concentration, and lasts for 1 minute. So the only real reason you would cast this is if you know for certain you're about to make a saving throw. But saving throws aren't ones you usually get to choose. Usually that happens because a creature's casting a spell on you or doing some kind of effect. And resistance would be great if it happened as a reaction, but it doesn't. It's an action, and it takes your concentration away. Cantrips that take concentration really aren't that great. They strip you of a really valuable resource that your other spells could be giving you. And since this isn't even that useful unless you know you're making a save, and if you know you're going to be making a save, there's probably other things you can do to avoid it rather than just give yourself an extra d4 on it. So yeah. And the other thing about resistance is that it only works once. The spell Bless, by comparison, gives you the extra d4 on your attacks and your saving throws, lasts a minute, and continues to work after you make a save. Resistance just stops working. So I wouldn't waste my concentration on this. Another spell I wouldn't waste my concentration on, Dancing Lights. This spell is an interesting one, and there's a lot of races that get this for free, like as a racial feature. It's not too bad in that case, but if you're using it to fill a cantrip slot, it's a concentration spell. You cast it and create glowing orbs of light that are roughly the same size as the light of a torch. You can move them with a bonus action, and these orbs cast dim light. This is... I mean, it's alright to light a place up and to have multiple lights so that you can cast it in different areas. Dim light, however, does not give you the best line of sight, unless you have dark vision, I suppose. But it also takes your concentration. Like, that's the other thing. Like, if you light a torch, now you have light, and you're not using your concentration. So, yeah, I don't know why a person would pick dancing lights. It really doesn't add up why you would waste concentration on an effect that you can get from an item. So, yeah, I'm not sure what dancing lights is all about. Um, the only spell that, gives you decent light is the spell Light. But oddly enough, that's also on my list. My third choice is the Light cantrip. Light doesn't work like dancing lights. It doesn't create floating orbs that you can move around. Instead, you use it to make an object glow. A common thing I've seen players do when they're in a dungeon and it's dark is they'll grab a little stone from the ground and cast a light cantrip. This spell doesn't take concentration. It just lasts. And it lasts a full hour. So you'd think it would be good that you would use this cantrip and make something light up. But you have torches. That's the thing. Cantrips are great in the sense that they don't use resources to cast. You can cast them pretty much infinitely. But when you can replace a cantrip with a piece of common adventuring gear, the cost you're paying isn't the spell slot, because obviously you're not using one. It's the fact that you only know a couple cantrips. And if you only know a couple, you shouldn't waste one on light when you can just carry torches with you. Most adventuring packs have torches in them. So dancing lights isn't quite Dancing lights is better in the sense it gives you more lights, but it's worse because it takes your concentration. Light enchants an object, but doesn't take concentration, but neither of them are necessary. Both of these spells just shouldn't be on your list of, of top spells to grab. Another spell that I would call not particularly good, the Message spell. The Message spell has its place. The Message cantrip allows you to, as an action, point at a creature. Now, the thing is, when you point at the creature, you can designate them. They're 120 feet away. You can do this through walls, as long as they're not too thick. As long as you know the creature is behind it and they're familiar with it. So you can talk to your friends like through walls or, through doors or what have you. The problem with Message is this, is that you have to whisper what you say to them. Message says that for a round, you can speak to a creature using your action in this cantrip, and they are the only ones who hear you, which sounds a lot like telepathy, and telepathy sounds like a cool power to have as a cantrip, but you're not actually speaking telepathically. You're whispering. You are speaking, so people can see that you're talking. This isn't particularly secretive, not to mention you have to cast the spell in the first place. So, the thing we want from telepathy is to be able to talk to people without making noise, without, moving our lips, without looking like we're speaking. We want to be able to metagame by communicating with our party without letting anyone else know what's happening. Message doesn't really accomplish that. The only real time I can think of Message being useful is if you're stealthy and you cast it and your party's close but not so far away that Message works. And you want to relay what you see to them without having to go back to them. But even then, it feels like unnecessary. If you've done a stealth check to check on something, you can get out too with the same check usually. And it's unlikely that you're going to get caught if you got that far. And since it doesn't work like telepathy, it doesn't have the social implications. It just feels like a messy cantrip, which is unnecessary. And then the final spell I have on here is actually an attack spell, Thunderclap. This came in Xanathar's Guide to Everything and was a part of 3 cantrips that were AoE cantrips, area of effect. You can hit multiple targets with this. If you use Thunderclap, all creatures within 5 feet of you, so that's a total of 8 potentially if you're completely surrounded. They make Constitution saves, not a great save to target. And if they fail it, they take thunder damage, 1d6. If they succeed, they take no damage. And this scales like cantrips do, 2d6, 3d6, and 4d6. Now, obviously, if you've got a bunch of weak enemies around you, yeah, this could wipe them out. It absolutely could. But there's a downside. One, if they fail the save, they take no damage. So you are using your action and might do nothing. And the other problem is that this spell makes noise. Thunderclap literally creates a boom of sound that is heard 100 feet away. And that's not an interpretation, that's written in the spell. So using Thunderclap means that any chance at stealth, any chance at isolation, any chance at anything like that is completely gone just because you decided to use a cantrip that causes a lot of noise. It's really not great. The damage isn't solid, the saving throw's not great, and the utility of making a lot of noise, not good. I mean, I suppose if you're trying to make a distraction, you could use this spell, but there's other ways you can make a lot of noise without having to spend a cantrip slot on it. All in all, none of these spells are useless. They all have a use case. And pretty much every spell in the game has a use case, but when you can replace them with first level spells that are infinitely better, when you're wasting concentration on an effect that you could get from adventuring gear, or when the spell just doesn't give you what you're trying to get out of it, then it's probably not worth taking. These are the 5 worst cantrips that artificers could take, but I really don't think they should. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, and keep your eyes peeled for more bad spell reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.